for the next episode of Youth on Subjects of the World. Really, really short. Like, really short. I don't know what happened about that. Anyways, so I'm Martin. That over there is Nathaniel, and then that right there is Willow. And this is Youth on Subjects of the World, Season 2. Neil isn't here because he's in the place, I think. And then Dylan might be here for the second hour. Anyways, gun control doesn't work. So, back to what I was saying. Gun control doesn't work. You can't just go into the house of everyone who owns an R-15 and take their R-15 because that would just be extremely difficult wide-scale practice. Also, if they have guns, I really, really doubt they're just going to give up their guns willingly.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause more deaths. Also, if someone obtains their gun illegally or keeps them illegally, the prison rate would go up if you make something illegal. And now all of these people are suddenly, if they refuse to give up their guns immediately, like fugitives or whatever. That doesn't work. Also, in America, as you can see from our drug problem, it is not hard to get things legally. Like, where I live in New Hampshire, I think we have, like, the second highest drug problem in America.
West Virginia's the top. We're the second.
Wow.
So, and all of the drugs that are, like, the biggest problems are illegal here. Like smoking cigarettes is illegal, tobacco and drinking alcohol is legal. Not smoking cigarettes isn't illegal. No, the two basic things that most places have legal are legal, and then that's it. Medical marijuana is legal, but not for recreational use. Ugh. So,
and mind if I butt in? Also, with as we've seen throughout history, like with prohibition, that just gets people wanting it a lot more. With like people smuggling medical alcohol over the Canadian border.
Yeah.
During prohibition. So.
Exactly.
And that is a very sad thing that you can't really just stop it because it's become so much of a big part of some people's lives with just keeping so many guns.
Well, can you repeat that? Willow, can you repeat that? Your audio kind of went out there.
It's sad that we can't really, like, take the guns away and all that because, like, there's not much that you can do. Some people have all these guns and all that already. It would help a lot if you were able to get the guns away, but
yeah, I heard what you said, but I think your mic or your internet's having some problems because, like, towards the end you started getting staticky. Is it just me that's getting that, Nathaniel?
Yeah, I'm hearing that as well.
Okay. But it seems like we can't have a show anymore without having technical difficulties with the people's mics and stuff. But yeah, like, there are so many problems in the world. Guns, like drugs, but like all these things like are illegal. They, like, people make them illegal and they seem to not work. But then if you look at other countries, like, gun control works in other countries. And then the main question asked is, why wouldn't gun control work here?
That's because I think they have different climates, different, like, scenarios, like a different culture and stuff like that. Like, it depends on the people. Like, are the people willing to do that? And are they able to do that? Like, with the American culture, like, a large aspect of it is, like, focused on guns. At least the stereotypical American.
Like, sure, America, I got a gun.
Holding the shotgun, wearing the cowboy hat, the boots.
Yeah. Like, that, yeah, wearing the boots.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, another, like, that's a big part to me is culture. Like, culture, the example I've seen used the most is Japan. Japan is a country, and there's very, very little gun violence, and guns are banned there. And, well, they're not banned, but to obtain, like, a legal firearm is an incredibly hard and rigorous process, and because of that, there's very little gun violence. But people fail to take into account there's a lot less people in Japan than there are in America. And the culture of Japan is completely different than the culture of America. Like, America is a mix of cultures from around the world, and Japan is a culture that people are a lot more, like, polite to one another. I mean, based on what I've known from research, because I think everyone goes through a phase where they're like, oh yeah, Japan's great, and they just like anime and Power Rangers and all that stuff. They don't talk on subways. It's incredibly clean, and it's a culture based around honor. And there's just a lot of things that people who are born and raised in Japan that aren't tourists do, based on the culture that they've been raised in, that just simply don't work in America, because we can, people fail to realize that in order to make something like that work is we need to, in my opinion, it needs to be implemented from the start. And you can't wait until it's becoming a really, really big problem to decide to implement this change. In the Constitution, when it was written that people are given the right to bear firearms, it's in case the government ever rose up and the people needed to defend themselves. I don't think in the case of a government takeover, people owning guns would do that much. But it's still a nice security to have, I think, for some people who are paranoid about it. But a lot of people ask why is their right to feel slightly more safe against their government more than children in school's right to live? And I don't know how to answer that, because I don't think there is an answer.
Well, it seems a lot of the people who do this change, teenagers that have been expelled or kicked out of school, they're younger, obviously. And they don't seem to have the guns, or they take the guns from a parent who has a gun, or something like that. But they're able to get the guns themselves and then shoot up the school.
Yeah.
So at least have more restrictions on being able to buy guns would be better to have, obviously.
Yeah. I think, one second, I'm chewing. I don't want to talk about it full.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So not only school shootings, like you were, let me just think about what I'm trying to say. So not only is it school shootings that are owning a gun, how easy it is to get one in the United States. It's not only school shootings that are the problem, but the higher suicide rate as well. Since it's so easy to get a gun, there's also, I don't know, I haven't really done research on this, but it might also be caused to a higher suicide rate since it's easier to get a gun.
I don't think so. At least a lot of what I've heard with more recent suicides and all that kind of stuff, it's been a lot more of overdoses. Okay. A lot more that has to do with medication. At least that's what I've heard.
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to look at countries ranked by their suicide rate. And it's a lot of these are countries that I can't even pronounce the name of. And I think, yeah, most of them are by what Willow said. 1 second. They're, for the most part, from what I can see, I guess suicide rate is highest in Greenland, from what I'm seeing.
Really?
Or maybe it's lowest in Greenland. I can't tell by this chart. It's not very clear. But anyways, by this, even if it's the highest or the lowest, if I go to the end, which might be the highest or not the lowest, U.S. is in the middle. So okay. I know for a fact that Japan has a very high suicide rate by knives and jumping off of buildings. And another argument that people bring up who are pro guns is if someone's going to commit a crime, they've already thrown caution to the wind and don't really they're going to do it whether or not. They're just going to find a way to have to do it, and that guns don't enable that. And while obviously guns don't enable someone doesn't see a gun and decide, oh, this gun makes me want to kill people. Guns are an easy thing to use, so I can understand it from both sides. I think it's a touchy subject because if you are in a school and someone comes in and they start shooting all your classmates, or you're a parent or a sibling and your person gets shot by some crazy guy with a gun in a school, obviously your views are going to change on whether or not guns are, like, you're going to be angry. And it seems like we only talk about this when there's a mass murder. And it's a lot harder to see things clearly when you're upset. Like, it was 2 years ago, I think, when the Florida attack happened. And my political belief was, at the time, we need gun control. How could we let this happen? Like, people have been killed. And how could this possibly have happened? Why are we living in a society where we're so forward-thinking and progressive, but yet people still go into gay clubs and shoot everyone? Like, I was very, very, very pro-gun control at that point. And then I sat down and I had a conversation with someone where they disagreed, and they basically were like, I understand your reasoning for being upset, and while it makes sense to think we should ban guns, if you think about it, that doesn't seem scalable. Like, it doesn't work, and that's the most frustrating thing is, and we almost always come to this conclusion when we talk about things, is like, what is the right way? For something like gun control, what is the right way to fix gun control? Like, there's no way that I have, and I've spent a great deal of time thinking about this and talking about this. And me and Nathaniel were just in a play, and we talked about this every day because it was Tech Week. So we were there every day for like a week and a half, and we talked about this every day. And neither of us have thought of any answer, because there isn't an answer. There's no answer to gun violence.
There's no clear answer to most things.
Exactly.
But sorry.
No, I cut you off, sorry.
There are still like small steps that you can take that can help out with the situation. It won't like completely fix everything, but it'll help in small ways. And that's really the most you can do until somehow you can actually have a real answer.
Yeah. Like, I think there's a double standard because of, like, someone is, like, darker skinned, automatically they're a terrorist who is doing it for religious or political reasons. And if someone is white, automatically they're insane. Like, I think to shoot someone at all, you have to have some disturbance in you.
Yeah, some motive behind it, because, like, sorry I cut you off, Martin, but I'm sorry, but
Not cutting me off.
okay. I personally believe, and like people, as you said before we started, Martin, like, some people are gonna get like angry about it, but like, I believe it's not necessarily, like, it's not the gun that's the problem. It's more how the people got to the point where they used the gun to harm others.
It is the people who are like doing the crime and like letting it happen, but it's the gun that helps them be able to do that. And if you compare someone who tries to stab a bunch of people compared to shoot a bunch of people, you can get a lot more success over shooting than stabbing someone.
That is, like, that is true, but then it makes you think, like, well, there's always alternative ways. And if you look at Europe, I mean, there was the Manchester attack during, I think it was an Ariana Grande concert last year, and it was like a bombing. So that's not a gun, and many, many people died and were injured. And then there was a couple instances in the last 2 years in Europe of people driving trucks or minivans and just running people over. And both of those situations didn't involve a gun and didn't need a gun to display harm. So I think if people are going to kill someone, they're going to find a way to kill someone. Like, gun just happens to be the thing that the person goes through at a school shooting in America. But I mean, this was like, I think the problem is when it's a school shooter, it always seems like when it's a shooter, you get to see, like, they focus on the shooter more than they should. And that shooter, like, they analyze him and like, oh, he was insane, or oh, he was like a radical Islamic terrorist, or like, oh, he was like a white supremacist, or like they analyze him and they decide like what his motives were, even if he never stated his moments, but he just like, they build a character around this person for what they did. And I don't know, I feel like that same analyzation doesn't happen for people who commit crimes with things that aren't guns. And I think when you promote a school shooter like that, I think that's doing exactly what they want to happen. I think when someone's in the mindset that they want to kill people, they want to be known, or like, I don't know what was going through that guy's mind when he shot up his school. Like, I never will know, and I hope to never understand his motives the way he understood his motives. But he obviously had them. He obviously was upset or emotionally hurt in some way to commit something like that. I don't know. Like, you hear the classic case of bullied or not fit in, or like, I don't know if that's always the case. I think that bullying is definitely a problem, but I don't know if that always factors into someone killing someone. But I don't know.
Yeah, it is a problem. And like bullying and stuff, like, I guess they can use it as an explanation, but I think a lot of the times it comes from a bad home or more severe stuff that they just don't ever try to think about. And with the whole thing with like driving the cars and the bombs, using guns isn't the only way to terrorize or hurt people like that. But at least right now, it's one of the more common.
I disagree with that, because as far as I know, gun violence for terrorist act is like I think gun violence through like mass shootings takes up like 3% of gun violence and like mass shootings or something. Like, I don't think there are as many mass shooters as people think there are.
Because the motives of a terrorist is to strike terror into a populace's mind, which is why, like, terrorists strike iconic landmarks to sort of strike fear into the mind of the people.
Like 9/11.
Yeah. And like the Paris bombings and the Paris attacks and the attack in Sweden and London, like, they use scare tactics to...
Yeah. Like, I think bullying in home life definitely, I think there's definitely something wrong with how we are raising children if we have this many. Like, I've had conversations with adults, and they always, like, people of my parents' generation, for most of the conversations I have, they don't remember school shootings and shootings like this being such a big problem when they were younger. But that could also just be that news doesn't spread the same way it did then that it does now. Like, I don't know. Maybe I could be completely wrong, but there's definitely something wrong with how we're raising our children if there's so many more people that feel the need to kill someone else in this day and age.
Well, also, I don't think shootings were at all, like, happening until I'm not even sure how long ago. At least, I shouldn't say shootings. At least more school shootings weren't happening as much as they are.
Yeah. And I think we also need to address we also need to address the fact that our school system is majorly flawed in America. So we definitely need to address that. Like, people are so mad about school shootings, and I think they forget that there are other possible motives other than, like, being bullied and we need to ban guns. Like, there is definitely an institutionalized problem in schools because, like, the curriculum that, like, just school setup in general is so scarily similar to a prison. Like, schools are just, they are outdated, and they do not give you any sort of glimpse at what real life is like.
They were built for factory jobs.
Yeah.
And having to listen and follow and just stay where you are. Yes, I don't know.
Exactly.
Since we're coming out of the Industrial Revolution where that is necessary, we need to reform our school system to adjust to modern life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, as a part of the school system, I learn more when I'm at home just by myself reading a book or a biography or something than I do in like 4 years at school. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Like, nowadays, we live in a, like, also, and, like, we live in a world where we're changing. Our jobs are changing. I've been observing this with my friends recently, that we're kind of living in, like, a shift in culture. Like, life right now feels very characteristically in the middle of something. I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like if I look around, I feel like we're in the middle of a change of some sort. Like, I mean, if you look at things like, and this is kind of like more pop culture-y, but things like memes and, like, I don't know why I said it, like memes, but, like, things that are extremely popular with the kids these days, like, of the last, like, 2 years, is slowly becoming less popular, and, like, the term dank meme isn't really a thing anymore because, like, it gets widespread to everyone and it's on the news within, like, days. So, like, we're kind of, like, that's kind of dying out. And before that, it was, like, Minecraft and anime, and that is already died out as, like, the...
Well, Minecraft actually hasn't really died out. I'm sorry to cut you off, but if you look at in sales of Minecraft, it's actually skyrocketed in the past few years than ever before. Like, because no longer do you have to more go onto a PC and look up the download link for Minecraft. Now, parents are more willing to buy their kids an iPhone than a full-on gaming PC. So Pocket Edition Minecraft sales have skyrocketed in the past few years.
Yeah, I can see that.
Daniel, not the point.
I'm sorry.
But, like, that's probably, I mean, it sounds like you have researched it, so I'm not going to argue with that. But just, I mean, culturally, 3 years ago, Minecraft was the greatest game ever, and every kid had to own it. And nowadays, it's just not on the cultural forefront of everyone's mind.
It's not as extreme.
Yeah. And, like, anime and Japanese culture in general was, like, it was, like, the center of attention for so long. And while it's still extremely popular, it's definitely gone down quite a lot in the last few years than it was in, like, 2014. And, like, I think we're kind of also in the middle of that again, where, like, and especially, I mean, social justice warriors, like, and social justice in general has been, like, rising for the last 3 years, and it's become like, and just like social justice in general and like liberalism and stuff like that is becoming more and more prominent, to the point where it feels like most of the time we have two ridiculous extremes that make no sense. Like the people who are like, yeah, Trump, and like trucker hat, and I want to buy all like these guns, and just like, and then you have people who are like, did you just breathe without my consent? And like, you have two extremes, and I feel like we're kind of at a point where we're going to start, there's going to be a lot more hurt than actual continuing if we continue to push so far away from each other and like continue to further a divide in the hopes of making everyone closer. I think like people feel very, very attacked if you say I disagree with you. And
That's just
like,
good.
but I feel like that's just like a human response. I don't think that's for a lot of people conscious. Like not conscious, conscious. I don't think it's a conscious response to immediately feel attacked when someone says they disagree with you. I think that's just how we're wired. And because of that, I think it's hard for people to see their own issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Like, definitely. So I'm just gonna say, like, sometimes right after someone says, actually, I disagree. I'm just like, what? Someone has a different opinion than I do? Blasphemy! But,
Yeah.
But then after, I'm just like, wait a minute. I could actually learn something from this person. Like, I can't just, like, wall them out. Because that's,
Yeah.
like...
That's very Neil, who isn't here today. It's very, 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 very for no echo chambers. To the point where I feel sometimes frustrated because he, like, finds the topics that are the most, like, that are the most controversial, like, for when we have conversations, just so that, like, he can get both sides of an opinion, even if, like, I'm like, oh, well, this fruit that I'm holding right here is like a reddish greenish color. No, that is bluish orange. It like it's really frustrating, but also actually really nice. And in some cases that aren't related to fruit, you have someone who's willing to make sure you're not just using it, like not actually looking past your cognitive bias at things. And I don't think there's anyone in the world who's completely perfect at that, because it literally is going against what your brain wants to do. So I know it's definitely hard, especially on topics like gun control, to look past your bias when someone you know was just shot. Like, your bias at that point is like very, like, to the point where if someone I knew got shot, I would probably feel guilty forever, like, doubting that gun control wouldn't, like, that kind of thing. Like, even if I know gun control doesn't work, I want it to work to the point where I will try and find reasons to believe it could. Like, I can completely understand the mindset of someone who has been, like, directly affected by gun violence. But the best example I like to use is the highest gun violence in America is Chicago, and they have the strictest gun laws. That's not that hard. That's not something you can argue with. That's like an actual thing. And I believe the lowest gun violence is like, I don't know, it's some southern state. And I guess maybe my interpretation of that is the amount of people who have like, the lowest gun violence is some southern state, but they also have, like, very loose laws around gun violence, around owning guns. And I think my interpretation of that is the reason why you don't go and shoot someone up in, like, a southern state is like people have guns and you're gonna get shot. Like, if I had a gun and I was gonna go and like try and rob a liquor store and I knew it was very likely they also had a gun, I probably would not use a gun to go rob that liquor store because I would also be risking my own life way more and it would not be worth it. So I think
don't rob the liquor store.
yeah, like
That's the moral of the story.
exactly. Like I think people fail to see the mutually assured destruction aspect of guns. We talk about that in worldly conflict. Like if everyone has nuclear bombs, then the likelihood of nuclear war is decreased because everyone would there's no way of like it ending well, basically.
Mhm.
And
So
I
you want to try to avoid that as much as possible.
yeah, and I think the same thing would also be applied if you knew every single person owned a gun, would you go and try and shoot up a school if you knew everyone in there also had a gun? That wouldn't happen.
hmm
But I think you can't say that without even questioning yourself. Like as I'm saying that sentence, I'm like, did I seriously just say that every like student would have a gun? Because that sounds horrible to say. But if you think about it objectively, it makes sense. At least to me, I would not want to go and start a gunfight if I knew a bunch of people had guns and I was outnumbered like 1,000,000 to 1. It's like I'm trying to think of a good funny
Like
example.
a sort of Mexican standoff where everyone has a gun pointed to someone, and then if someone points the trigger, everyone's going to be dead. Kind of
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, like if you basically, or kind of like if you walk into a school and everyone has a gun, you're not going to make it past the doorway with a gun. Like, you're not going to want to try and shoot up a school if everyone has a gun because you're going to die. Like, that would, unless you are like completely fine with going into a school. And like, I think a lot of these guys don't care if they live or die, but I don't think you'd accomplish a lot if everyone has a gun. You'd probably be dead before you could actually do what you came there to do. But like, once again, as I'm saying that just feels like, what am I, like that, I really, really doubt, and it's horrible to say because I really don't think, it bothers me that we live in a society where I have the thought of, well, if everyone has a gun, then we'd be safer. Like, that's pretty messed up. But I think there's a level of truth to it. I think there's actually quite a lot of levels of truth to it. And I think people fail to think about that because it's hard to, like, it took me a really long time to think about that. Just because I really don't, I think it's hard to get past the kind of moral obligation to do something to actually see that answer. Because that answer is, like, if you are someone, I've mentioned this before, I'm currently, if you had to put me in a political box, even though I'm not a big fan of political boxes, but you'd probably put me in the political box of a libertarian. But like 3 years ago, you would have put me in the political box of a liberal. Like, my views have changed so much just by trying to separate myself from my own biases. And I feel like getting past your own bias is the first way to solving a problem. But just because you think you have an answer to something does not mean that's the answer. Like, the biggest problem with that is, well, in my head, it sounds like it would work. Like, I've thought about that a lot, and I can't think of a lot of downsides to it. Back then, 3 years ago, I thought about gun control, and I was like, oh, there's no downsides to this. Like, until something is actually tried, it's very hard to convince everyone that it will work or it won't work. But it's even harder to try and convince someone to try something if you don't have any proof of it working. And I think that's the problem we fall to in America a lot, is people demand action, but everyone's scared to actually try and implement this because, like,
And it's hard to take action.
yeah, because to me, the thing that I would be the most, like, the thing that's the most, like, to me, what if you try gun control and it doesn't work? What do you do then? What if you give everyone a gun and it doesn't work? What do you do? Like, it's almost like scared to find out what actually happens if you try this.
But that's really the only way to find out how something will work is actually testing it out.
Yeah.
Don't
And I
want-
think,
Sorry.
yeah. No, I cut you off. I'm talking too much.
But you don't want to find out what will happen if it goes wrong, but it's kind of like the only way to figure it out.
Yep.
So it's just like super awkward trying to even try it.
Yep. And I think there's definitely a moral high ground when someone says, I don't believe in gun control, and then everyone jumps on them. There is definitely a moral high ground to saying we should have gun control if you don't think about it too hard. Because, like, the prospect of not having guns to murder people, that would be awesome. Like, I don't like guns. They scare me. I don't want to own one. But I still think if I could remove every gun from this planet and stop gun violence at the press of a button, I would do that. But that's not possible. And I would rather everyone has guns rather than some people who are crazy have guns.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a meme that about just some people that I've talked to that kind of seem like this. Like just kind of like having a high ground morally. Let me see if I can. Does it show up? No, it's just a white screen. Too bad. Okay, well it's a meme.
Best
It's a
meme.
wonderful white screen.
I know. Well, like, I don't know. Also, the problem with saying my political box fits under libertarian is that's a very wide term. There's actually a different meme that's like, oh, I don't like them, just how, like, libertarians don't like communists, and libertarians don't like Republicans, and libertarians don't like Democrats, and libertarians don't like other libertarians, because that's a very wide term, and I think there's a lot of people that fall in that political spectrum. But, yeah. I don't know. What time is it? Should
We
do
have
it?
been talking about this for almost an hour. Like I just checked like a few seconds ago, and I'm like, whoa, talking about this for an hour. And do you mind if we like switch off sort
I
of?
think we should go to break while we're still talking
Should we go to break?
about this. Yeah, because the break video directly relates
Okay.
to this. So I think we should go to break and then we can talk about this, even though it's a little bit early. You think should we go to break, Willow?
I think we could go for just a little bit more than break. Just kind of fill in the little extra space between,
Sounds good.
so it doesn't seem too early.
Okay, so words are happening. It is a time. I don't have
It
a
is a
watch
time.
on.
It's 4:44.
Oh my gosh. 444.
Whoa.
Wow.
So I heard about this earlier, but like I found the article, I believe. So hold on, I wonder if you can see this. Oh, yep. Oh, it's backwards. That sucks. Dang it.
No, it's not. It's
Yeah,
not
it's-
backwards.
Oh,
It
it's
was
backwards for me, but yeah.
I
heard
read the
about-
word cancer and vaccines, and that triggers me. Oh. Huh.
Yeah, like I heard about it earlier and I'm like, what? Why isn't the media reporting about this? And I watched a video on it. It was about sort of, it's by Film Theory, if anyone knows who that is. Like,
Obviously.
yeah. So
What?
here,
I like-
I will,
I'm a child of this generation. I know who film theory is.
okay. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to try reading it the best I can. A revolutionary cancer vaccine that can eliminate tumors even after they have spread throughout the body is to go into human trials. The move follows trials on mice in which the treatment worked startlingly well, according to researchers, with 90% of the animals cured after one injection and the rest after a second jab. The team at Stanford University in California say that injecting a tiny amounts of two drugs directly into a tumor not only kills the original cancer, but also triggers an amazing body-wide reaction which destroys distant cancer cells. The drug combination works by switching on immune cells inside the tumors, which have been deactivated by the cancer, then boosting them so they can go to work killing the disease. When we use these two agents together, we see the elimination of tumors all over the body, said Professor Ronald Levi, I think that's how you pronounce it, who led the study. This approach bypasses the need to identify tumor-specific immune targets and doesn't require wholesale activation of the immune system or customization of a patient's immune cells. For the trial, Levi plans to recruit 15 patients with a low-grade lymphoma. Here, this is the word.
Lymphomia?
Wait.
Lymphomia, I think, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's Lymphoma.
Yeah.
It's lymphomia?
I think so. Wait, let me read it. Whatever. Actually, I think we should go to break before we start talking about this because the break video is about gun violence. And that would be weird.
Break.
Okay, so I think we're going to go to break slightly early so that we have more time to talk about this.
Yep.
Joining me now are 5 students from Parkland, Florida, who attend Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. They are David Hogg, Alex Wind, and Emma Gonzalez, plus Cameron Caskey and Jacqueline Corin. Thanks so much to all of you for joining me. And Cameron, I'll start with you. You say the adults have let you down.
Well, the adults in office have let us down, absolutely. And fortunately, we have a lot of support from the older generations here. But what we're trying to do here at March for Our Lives is say, the adult politicians have been playing around while my generation has been losing our lives. If you see how they treat each other in the office, if you see the nasty, dirty things going on with them, it's sad to think that that's what they're doing while 17 people are being slaughtered and gunned down only yards away from where we're sitting right now. And March for Our Lives has support from everybody. And at the end of the day, this isn't a red and blue thing. This isn't Democrats and Republicans. This is about everybody and how we are begging for our lives and we are getting support, but we need to make real change here, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
So, Emma, what is the plan? You say you want to spark a national movement. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to actually make it happen. What are you going to do?
Well, what we have set up right now, we have a website, March for Our Lives. We're going to be doing a march in March on Washington where we get students all over the country are going to be joining us. These kids are going to make this difference because the adults let us down. And at this point, I don't even know if the adults in power who are funded by the NRA, I don't even think we need them anymore because they're going to be gone by midterm election. There's barely any time for them to save their skins. And if they don't turn around right now and state their open support for this movement, they're going to be left behind because you are either with us or against us at this point.
We are giving a lot of the politicians that we feel neglected by a clean slate because that's the past and we understand that. But from here on, we are creating a badge of shame for any politicians who are accepting money from the NRA. It is a special interest group that has most certainly not our best interests in mind, and this cannot be the normal. This can be changed, and it will be changed. And anybody who tells you that it can't is buying into the facade that's being created by the people who have our blood on their hands.
David, a lot of people saw the reporting that you did from inside the school while the shooting was taking place, and I'm truly sorry that all of you had to live through that. But I want to read to you what President Trump said last night. He said that it's actually the Democrats that have let you down because they didn't pass legislation when they controlled Congress. Does he have a point?
President Trump, you control the House of Representatives, you control the Senate, and you control the executive. You haven't taken a single bill for mental health care or gun control and passed it. and that's pathetic. We've seen a government shutdown. We've seen tax reform, but nothing to save our children's lives. Are you kidding me? You think now is the time to focus on the past and not the future to prevent the death of thousands of other children? You sicken me.
So what kinds of laws do all of you think should be on the books that aren't right now?
Well, what I think needs to be on the books right now that isn't is literally any law that's from either side of the political spectrum. If you're a Republican that supports mental health care, we want you out there making your voice heard, because that's just as important as gun control or gun safety laws at this point. Because Democrats also want gun safety rules, and we can't get into any more debates. We need discussion. We've had the debates, and people have died as a result. Children have died and will continue to if we don't stop now and look at both sides of this, because we can't wait around any longer. Children are dying as a result, and we need to take action. And I call on President Trump and the Republican-controlled House and Senate and executive branch to work together, get some bills passed, and stop taking money from the NRA, because children are dying, and so is the future of America as a result.
I just want to say something I've heard a lot is the word gun rights. And that has the connotation that we are trying to strip people of their rights. Well, first of all, we have the right to live. And second of all, here at March for Our Lives, at least for me, we don't want to take the guns away from Americans. My father is a police officer, he has guns, and I understand that having concealed weapons is good for protecting yourself. But an AR-15 is not needed to protect your house from robbers. It's not needed to hunt bears. An AR-15 is a weapon of war, and a 19-year-old who is mentally challenged and has problems was able to buy an AR-15 easily. We don't want to disarm America. We want to make America have to work for their weapons, and we have to make sure that everybody who has this kind of power in their hands has been cleared to have it. Because if Nicholas Cruz had gone through 5 minutes with any medical professional, they would have said, this person does not need an AR-15, this person needs a counselor. And 17 people would not have needed graves.
Alex, your own Senator Marco Rubio says that more gun laws won't do anything, that anyone who wants to commit violence is going to find a way to get a gun.
If you think that, Senator Rubio, then change the way it's easier to get a gun, okay? If you think it's too easy to get a gun, do something about it. Make it not easier to get a gun. March 24th on the March for Our Lives is only the beginning. This is the first march, but I can guarantee it will not be the last. We will be marching for the 17 we lost at our school. We will be marching for everyone we lost at the Newtown Sandy Hook shooting, at Columbine, at Virginia Tech, in San Bernardino, Orlando, at the Pulse shooting, and at Las Vegas. This is only the beginning, and March 24th, things are going to change.
It's not our job to tell you, Senator Rubio, how to protect us. The fact that we even have to do this is appalling. Our job is to go to school, learn, and not take a bullet. You need to figure this out. That's why you were unfortunately elected. Your job is to protect us, and our blood is on your hands.
Well, I know that millions of people are watching to see where you take this movement. You've already got tens of thousands of followers online, and we'll be watching to see if you're able to change a pretty entrenched political dynamic here in Washington. Thank you so much to the 5 of you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello, hello, hello.
We're not actually here. This isn't a Fig Newton of your imagination.
A Fig Newton? That's what I heard.
That's what I said. You never heard that joke?
A Fig Newton of your imagination?
No.
That's what I... No. I know you said Figment, but I
No,
heard
I said
Fig
Newton.
What?
Yeah, I said Fig Newton. You've never heard that? Like a fig... Do you know what a Fig Newton is?
Yeah, I know what a Fig Newton is.
Yeah.
You never heard people say that?
No.
Oh. Wow. Well, that's the thing. People say it.
Okay,
So
I'll start using it then.
So, the break video now has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but I'm going to just quickly touch on that. They are organizing a school walkout, and just simply to make a point, I guess. I'm not quite sure what their goal is of doing that. I think it's interesting. I don't know. I think our schools are very, very messed up, and I think it's good that kids are going to do something and protest, just like kind of protest that, like, kind of, to me it just seems like showing off that they can do this, and that, I don't know, maybe they will continue to do this if changes are not made to our culture. And I don't know, like, maybe they want the changes to be gun control or mental health awareness, or like, I don't know. I think probably gun control is what they're looking for, but I could see any changes coming from that. I just think I think changes need to happen, obviously. But anyways, Nathaniel was talking about something really, really interesting that, shockingly, the media is not reporting on. And apparently, there is a cancer vaccine that is moving to human trials. Now, before we go into this, Nathaniel, did you cite this? Was there sources listed on the article?
All right. Yes, there were. Now, this is from The Week, theweek.co.uk. Let's see. Let's try. Like, some of the passages were from, like, the Daily Telegraph, and there's also like Robert Levi, who led the study, the Daily Mail, and several other magazines and newspapers talking about this, but not so much like and just for those of you out there who know that mice don't necessarily translate to humans, it says, at the end of the article says, but the big question is whether the approach works in people, as most rodent cancer therapies don't translate to humans, the magazine notes. So just so y'all know. So as you were saying, Martin, like, the media doesn't really report about these good things going on in our world. It's mostly the bad things, like the shocking stuff that just grabs people's attention. Like, for example, the whole Tide Pod epidemic, where only about 87 people actually, there were only about 87 calls to poison control, I think, about Tide Pods being
That's
consumed.
still crazy, though. 87
Yeah, but that
laundry detergent.
Yeah, but that's compared to overall, I think, I forget the actual number, but it was overall like maybe 33 million calls total. I don't know, but I forget what it actually was like, but it's a very small percentage.
33,000 calls?
What?
Did you mean to phrase it that way?
What?
You just said you said there was 87 calls, but 33,000 calls total.
Well, total overall, the year the calls were made.
Oh.
Poison control. Sorry, I should have worded that differently.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a very small number. And, like, there are many other examples of the media sort of using very small, I'm not saying insignificant or not a tragedy, but small things, while there are larger problems going on around us.
Like people who say that there's been 18 school shootings this year, even though there hasn't. That's actually completely false. There has been, I have the picture saved on my phone that has like the actual list of what those school shootings were. It was just like, gunshot heard from school, no one was harmed. Gunshot heard from school, no one was harmed. There were, I think, 2 cases of a student bringing a gun and shooting someone, and neither of them resulted in death. So there's been a total of like 3 school shootings. 2 of them were injuries and weren't fatal. So, yeah, I don't know why people like to focus. I mean, we're going to Mars. That's a thing.
Yeah.
No one seems like, people are talking about it, but at the same time, like, not thinking about just how, I think it's hard for us to realize just how big that is. Just like thinking about it, it's hard to like think, wow, the next couple years, we're going to be like starting to colonize Mars. That's just like that thought, even saying that out loud, it doesn't feel like that actually could really be a thing, but it is.
Yeah. Kind of like just, I think it's Sorry, that's just my watch. Just ignore that. Just skip that.
Is that your watch telling you it's 5 o'clock?
Yes, that is my watch. It's 5 o'clock. So I guess it's kind of like with movies. It's just like, ooh, they're gonna colonize Mars. That's just like what I saw in this movie.
Yeah.
That's not really the main issue. Like, it's fine if we have movies where they colonize Mars. It gets us imagining things and then want us to happen. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I can't wait to visit Mars and just, yeah. I probably won't be alive then, but that's okay.
Also, the Hyperloop, which was also invented as a document by Elon Musk. Does anyone else on here know about the Hyperloop?
No.
Oh my gosh. So there was a bullet train being built. I can't remember from where to where, but it was essentially the world's most expensive and slowest bullet train. So Elon Musk got annoyed by that and just designed a Hyperloop thing, which is basically like a train that operates simplistically on the same basic principle of an air hockey table.
Oh.
It's so cool, and it's actually like moving into like full-scale tests. I think you can get from, I'm going to look it up real quick. You guys can have a conversation while I find more information about it.
All right. So, how's the weather?
Rainy.
Oh, that sucks. It's gray outside, so we might get some rain later.
Yeah, that is Ohio in the winter is just gray, rainy, snowy, depressing,
Yeah.
sad,
Yeah.
all of that in one. And then you get to spring, it's like, oh, it's not that bad.
In New England, it's like you'll freeze to death in the winter and you'll boil to death in the summer.
I hate the heat, so even if it's like in the 80s, I'm like, nope, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore.
I kind of prefer winter because like I can get warm, but in summer I can't really get cold.
It's so much easier to just like put on more jackets or just like put on more blankets than try to just get as cool as possible.
Which is illegal. Like if you want to go for the extremes, it's illegal
Yeah.
to do that. Martin, you find it yet?
1 second. I'm calculating something.
All right. Let's see. Hold on. Here, this will keep us entertained.
Oh my gosh. Load faster. Well, it loads. I'll give you a little bit more information than I have now. So the Hyperloop, which has the coolest name ever, is
What?
the Hyperloop 1, which is essentially a mode of transportation invented by Elon Musk, which is currently being built for full scale. And it is incredibly fast. And it was built by, like, everyone has a concept of Elon Musk, right? The guy invented SpaceX, which is doing more than NASA to like get to Mars.
Yeah.
When he doesn't actually have a degree in rocket science, he taught himself, who unschools his children.
Unschools his children?
Yes, that is. I haven't told you about unschooling. I'll tell you about unschooling later. Let's not talk about that now.
Okay.
Not enough time.
42nd Street. We can talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it then. Words. He also invented the Tesla, which is an electric car, which is just awesome. It looks like a normal car, and that's like one of the biggest problems people have with electric cars is it doesn't look cool enough. And he also helped invent PayPal, and he designed the internet's first yellow pages. And when he was 12, he designed a video game and sold it for $300, which is how he got the money to build the Yellow Pages, which is how he got the money to build PayPal, which is how he got the money to do SpaceX, which is how he got the money to do Tesla, which is how he got the money to do the Hyperloop. So the guy's a genius, and he's doing more to help our planet than like anything else. So 1 second, this is still taking a really long time.
Would it be okay if like Dylan came on during like 20 minutes left of the show?
No, it's not okay. I forbid him. Obviously, it doesn't have any effect on our show. It's our
He's because he's just trying to see if he can like come in at any time, and so he's asking that. So I'm
Yeah, no problem. Now, it is taking extremely long to load. So I'm going to try one more time.
Here I
Okay.
have.
Okay, wait. It's now finally loading. So, the amount of time it would take to get to Los Angeles to Las Vegas, 30 minutes.
with
Wow.
the Hyperloop.
Yes. To give you a scale, that's 4 hours and 17 minutes by car, 3 hours and 28 minutes by plane, 2 hours and 42 minutes by train, and 2 hours and 8 minutes by, I don't even know what that is. Some form of transportation.
What's it say?
It doesn't say, it's an image. So if you want to check out these for yourself, go to hyperloop1.com. To get to Mumbai to Pune, what would normally be a 3-hour plane flight is a 13-minute Hyperloop. That's a scale of how fast that is. And that's currently being built. So that's not science fiction. That is in scale, like that is being made right now. And as far as I know, it would not be expensive because it's not expensive to make.
Well, that's good.
Woo.
So essentially, planes are going to go out of business. Anyways, so that's just an example that took a really, really long time of the fact that things in the world are not nearly as bad as people make them out to be. Politically, there are definitely a lot of problems. I think everyone knows that.
Mhm.
But people seem to forget in politics there is no right answer. That's why there's different political parties and why people feel so strongly about said parties. I don't really know.
Mhm.
I don't know why people cling so much to the title. Like, I am a Democrat and I will always be a Democrat and you cannot tell me anything that isn't like said by a Democrat because that is wrong. Like, I don't understand that mindset.
I feel like you could be like mostly Democrat, but agree on some things like any other party thinks.
Yeah, like I think to me it's like you should find views that agree with you, not you should find something and then agree with all those views. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Looks like Nathaniel's.
I'm texting my mother. She's nagging me about not making a list of food items for the trip to Costa Rica. And I'm like, Mom, I was doing homework and I'm on the podcast, so yeah.
I wanted to ask a question. Does everyone's parents watch the podcast?
Mine has. Only my mom.
I think maybe they have. I've definitely told my parents what we've talked about, if it's cool, like if I think it was pretty cool. Not that it isn't cool, but just like
I know what you meant.
worth sharing.
Yeah.
You jumped on it like things that are like cool. No, but not that this isn't cool. Like,
But I have told a few people that I know about the podcast. But yeah.
yeah, my parents watch it occasionally. Like they watched it occasionally if I tell them a specific episode. But I definitely talk about it with them a lot. But like, yeah, podcast. I think this show to like we've been doing this now for over a year. Like, and I think it's quite awesome because it's definitely helped me build skills that I did not otherwise have. For instance, skills with talking to people. live on air in front of like who knows who is watching,
Yeah.
like, and just like design skills. Like I wrote the theme song and like my friend built the video, and like just like skills on how to work together and build something from scratch and stuff like that. And I think it's definitely an important life skill that school does not teach you, is how to be creative in your thinking.
Hmm.
And I think that working on a podcast like this has definitely given me life skills that I couldn't have been taught.
Yeah.
It's like if someone had, I don't think I would have retained the same knowledge that I currently have about things like this if someone had told me about it rather than me experiencing it myself.
Mhm.
And like making mistakes and learning from mistakes. Like I think in our culture, we very often forget that mistakes are a very good thing to learn how to do better.
Very much.
Yeah. So
You can't prevent mistakes.
exactly. So is there anything else you guys want to talk about to like move to a new topic?
Wait, what was our about the Hyperloop, right?
Yes. We were talking about like Hyperloop and good things in the world.
And good things. The world can always be good in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but we live in the most peaceful time in human history. So
Exactly. I think people forget that too. That like things are not nearly as bad as we like to make it seem.
Not
I mean,
as much war.
if you just watched the news, you would think that like if you were someone who doesn't know anything about this time at all and you just watched the news for anything about the outside world,
Mhm.
if you lived alone and just watched the news, you would think we were living in the worst period of time in like all of human history. That's just, I don't know why, but the news, like news articles and just anything seems to prioritize the negative over the positive. And
why though? Isn't it all the same? Like, wouldn't it be more profitable to like give honest news? Because if you think about it, we're looking for honest news and sort of good things about the world.
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Take notes, news stations. Take notes.
Like, I mean, I guess there's something that's more interesting about focusing on the negatives. I mean, if you look at, we definitely have a lot of lighthearted humor on this show, but if you look at on this show, we don't, for the most part, go on and talk about all the cheery things that are going on. Like, I walked by a cat today, and that cat purred when I pet it, and then I walked my dog through a land of rainbows. Like, we talk about, like, well, this shooting happened, and we need to do this about gun violence, and this, and this, and this, and this, and communism is bad, and war is this, and, like, all these things to, like, talk about. So I can kind of understand, because, like, it's interesting to talk about negative topics, but we're not reporting it. We're discussing it, so it's different.
Basically just bouncing off ideas and thoughts and stuff.
Yep.
If you guys have anything to say, I guess we can just switch to the mental health and medication stuff.
Yeah, so
Totally
there
forgot
is,
about that.
there-
I was ready to share a meme, just hold it up to the screen and just talk about it.
like, mental health. I think I've talked about this quite a lot. There's definitely a problem with how children are raised if depression and suicide rates are as high as they are. And I think that comes from a lot of societal structure of how things should be. But I think it also comes from just like, I don't know. I feel like society pushes for there to be a disconnect between parents and children that doesn't have to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone on this show at this exact second is pretty close with their parents. I know I am.
I am.
And I think, and we all seem to be pretty informed and like well balanced and like not depressed and slitting our wrists and shooting up schools. And there has to be a correlation between that. I don't think it's a coincidence that people who have a nurturing environment happen to be more stable human beings once they get older. And I think there's definitely a stigma around like mama's boy. Like if you're close with your parents and you're not cool to other kids. But I think it's also society in TV shows and movies and like tries to bridge a gap and like between parents and children that doesn't necessarily have to be there. Like I think, and that cycle repeats itself. Like I think it has something to do with the fact that children are given no power and no rights and no say. Like unless the parent decides to like listen to their children until they're 18, the child pretty much has no say in how their life is. Like that is a severe problem, and I think that problem continues itself because then once you're old enough, like you make all the wrong choices just to rebel. Like friends of mine who have parents who are maybe not so supportive, who are like out partying and getting drunk, and like I'm straight edge. And if you don't know what straight edge means, that means no drink, no drugs, no smoke. It's also a subculture of hardcore music, which is one of my favorite genres of music. So I have made the choice already not to partake in those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of friends who have not made that same decision. And when they have a time to like find clarity, they can figure out why. And they can just like, oh, well, I'm doing this because I'm hurting because of my relationship with my parents. Like, or my relationship with my siblings, or like my relationship with my girlfriend. Like a lot of people fail to think about the fact that people don't just do things for no reason.
Yeah.
Especially things like that. People don't go get drunk and party just to like go get drunk and party. I mean, I've never done it, but it doesn't even look like all that much fun to go and drink a bunch of shit that makes you not feel well and then throw up. Yeah. And then like all that stuff.
Yeah, my dad has told me about his experience being drunk and he said he hated it.
Yeah. Like, so I made a choice at a very, very young age. I think I was 9 when I decided I was not going to do drugs and that I was not going to drink. I don't know. I don't think I'm not ever going to drink in my entire life. I'm not going to ever do drugs because that's just a choice that I've made because I don't want to feel out of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if things are illegal, that's not good. I don't want to go to jail for something as stupid as that. Like, but I also, that it comes back to like gun control a little bit, I don't believe just because I don't do drugs that all drugs should be illegal. Because like, that obviously hasn't done anything. Our drug problem is still really bad, and people get into really horrible situations doing drugs because it's illegal. Like, drugs are bad. Like, that is my opinion. But I don't believe that it should be illegal because it obviously doesn't work. I mean, the war on drugs has been happening since like the early 80s, and we're worse now than we were then. Like, it obviously is not working. If we have, like, our prison population in America is way bigger and no one's, like, people are still doing drugs and doing drugs more than they did then. Like, so I think I think people need to realize the solution to solving problems is not just to ban the most obvious thing. Ban the most obvious thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think a problem with a lot of the drug problem is people hurting and people who are upset and they're trying to find an escape, and then it just spirals from there. Like, I think I actually had a very, very close friend of mine overdose, a couple months ago, and like they currently do not partake in any sort of drugs for that reason because they almost died. Like, so not only did I already make the decision, but I know why. Like, there's people around me who have not made the decision and had bad things happen because of that. And I've talked to them and they're like, I don't like my relationship with my family, and I realized that's why I was doing this. Like, it was an escape for me. Like, I think people need to understand the way that, like, to raise your kids, like, I don't expect to raise your kids completely equal to you, because obviously you're going to be smarter and know more about life than a 6-year-old is. Because you've just lived long, like, that's just a fact. But I still think you should treat your children closer to equal than that you already are. Like,
Then
yeah. No, you talk.
Than just this little person that can't do anything in life and you make all the decisions for them. And then that means they never have any kind of I can't think of the word.
I think, yeah. I think the two things that can come of that is if you're completely controlling, when they're 18, they're not going to know what to do. That's why we have so many, like, millennial college students who are, like, demanding free this, and, like, there's the whole stigma of millennials don't get jobs and stuff like that, which I don't really believe. But anyways, like, I definitely know some people of that age range who don't really know how to function in adult society because they've been told what to do and what this, and like been raised in a school system that like is designed for a factory and like stuff like that. And I think the other way it can go is you're told what to do, you don't want to be told what to do, and you go the complete opposite way of what to do.
And you go really rebellious and get yourself in a lot of trouble.
And that can end anyway. Like, I'm not going to use names or anything like that because I don't want to give away personal information about people. But I know someone who was not very controlled as a child, and then he basically went like completely rebellious, like all the textbook meddling kid things, and then ended up not going to college, dropping out of high school, and ended up realizing the error of his ways, like having children, marrying someone, working his way up in a company, and now being like in a good place in the world without the added bonus of college debt. So I think there is a lot of ways things can work out, and I don't know. I just think no one should ever have to feel like they're not comfortable or like safe around their family.
Yeah.
And I think too many kids do not feel like in good company around their parents or their family.
Yeah, I remember I used to be in this unschooling group, and like a lot of the kids in the group, I shouldn't say a lot, but at least some of the ones that I would talk to more just were uncomfortable with their parents all the time. They wanted to do more rebellious things. And that's just like uncomfortable to hear. And then it's like, you don't know what to say to that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to encourage them, but you can't really say anything to their parents, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. It's just an awkward situation. Sorry.
Yeah. No, don't say sorry. I'm talking probably more than I need to be. Like, yeah. I get a lot of that too. Like, I think if you look at people who are raised in like a nurturing home, I can think of 5 examples of those people being like head like screwed on well, like ended up not doing like super rebellious things and like actually have a grasp of what life is like. And then I can think of one example where they did like the exact opposite. And then if I look at people who do like come from a controlling family, most of the time they have like, even if it's not like a giant thing, like a rebellious phase, like, and I think because of that, there's a whole stigma around like teenagers are rebellious and like they don't know what's good for them and they're just like partying all the time. And I really hate that because, I mean, I guess I'm a teenager, I'm 15, but I don't do any of the things that are related with like my age group.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel the need to.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it's called for. Like, I'm just fine staying home and not really like doing partying or anything like that.
That's
not
the
needed.
majority. That's the majority of what all of us want to do. Just stay home and just relax. Just be lazy. Just be lazy.
Like, I'm 15 and I play with action figures sometimes. Like, I don't fit into a category of my age group just because that's what my age group is supposed to fit into.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely hate the idea that when you're 8 years old, you have to be interested in that. And then when you're like 14, you have to be interested in this. And like, because I'm interested in what I'm interested in, when I'm interested in it, because I find it interesting, not because someone tells me I should find it interesting. And I think that's another thing is if you're pushing kids to grow up or if you're pushing kids to like do like be into this role or do this and do that, that also can cause a lot of conflict because like I don't believe that anyone should be pushed to act their age. Like, I've never had anyone tell me to act their age because I've had people tell me I'm pretty mature for my age, considering like I had a lot of people misjudge me based on my appearance.
Yeah, I've been guessed as way older than I actually am too.
Yeah. A lot of people just based off of like my appearance judge me as like some like 19-year-old like frat boy or like metalhead or something like that just because like I'm tall, I have like shaggy hair, and like that's pretty much it. But I don't like I like metal music, but I don't like hard partying or like playing foosball. Like, I don't even know what hard partiers do. Like, what do? Do you just like go and do bad things? Like, let's do things that are bad for us because that seems fun. Like, I don't like. I just know what like the stereotypical sitcom way of looking at it looks.
Yeah.
Like
just like really drunk people just doing stupid things.
Yeah, and I don't feel the need to know anything more than that because like
Yes.
I don't care that much. So yeah, I think there's definitely a problem in our society with things like that, with just like how we raise children impacts everything, because children, whether you like it or not, are the future. You're going to die someday, and your generation is all going to die someday, and you have to make sure that the next generation is either, if you feel like your generation is like good, and it sounds weird to say, but like, you know what I mean, you want to continue that, or if you want to make sure they don't make the same mistakes you make. And if we just continue the same problem that we recognize, then that's not going to work out. Like, we need to realize that children are someday going to be adults, and and you need to make sure they don't resent you, because like people talk about like when their child is like rebellious and 15, won't talk to them, like, well, look at how you talked to them when they were younger. Like, did you always listen to what they have to say? Like, did you always hang around them? Like, were you good to them? Like, did you have a good relationship with your child before they got to this age where they were able to like notice that you didn't?
Because like there's not much you can do when you're like a small kid. Like, you don't really know this stuff is wrong. So you just kind of like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, I guess. But as you get older and then experience other people's families and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah. And like people don't just decide to be jerks for no reason. There's obviously like you have to analyze what you did. Cause like you have to take at least 40% of the credit for how your child ends up. At least. Depending on how you raise them, it could be more. Like you can't just like your child, like if you were completely nice and like understanding of your child's needs, and I'm not saying like never make them do their chores or like when they're a jerk never punish them kind of thing, like just like don't hit them. I'm very much not for any sort of spanking or anything like that.
I don't think you should hit their I don't think people should hit their children. Wrong. You can't hit another adult.
Exactly. Like don't the way I've always, it's just so ridiculous to say yeah, it's bad to hit people. Like that doesn't make sense. Why would
you just go around and hit your child? It's like,
yeah.
no.
Why would you teach someone it's bad, like hitting is bad by hitting them?
Yeah.
That's like mass shootings are bad. I'm gonna shoot you. Like I don't understand. That just continues the same behavior. If you don't like what someone's doing, that means it's okay to hit them. Like
yeah.
That sort of mindset continues itself. So
Or just stupid.
yeah, like I don't know. It's a difficult conversation to have because no one wants to be told that like you're parenting incorrectly or you're not doing it good enough. And obviously, like parents are people too. They can't be expected to constantly be nurturing and good to their children. But they can definitely do better than the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. And I shouldn't say, and I don't think like parents are exactly like 100% the reason their kid might be a certain way, because there has to be some responsibility on the kid's decisions too, and that can happen from the parents, like for them doing that. And Nathaniel's dead, trying to fix his internet.
Is Nathaniel there?
Nathaniel's there, but his internet connection is being really unstable.
How do you know?
Because he said it in the chat.
He did? Where? I'm trying to find the chat. Maybe my internet connection is being unstable because I don't have any.
No,
I don't have any messages.
No, it was me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I don't have any messages in the chat.
Yeah, I was just on our bad internet connection. Oh wait, it says no connections available. Let me fix that.
You say as you talk through the internet.
Yes.
You're not connected to the internet, but you're here.
Yeah.
All right.
So, give me the lowdown of what was going on. I could hear some of it, but I'm just like,
We said spanking is bad. Don't be a jerk to your kids. Usually they won't be a jerk to you back. Obviously no one's perfect is basically what we said.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really know if I have anything else to say on this topic. I think almost 100% of mental health issues stems back to problems in your childhood. I don't think, obviously there are cases of people who are born with who are born upset or depressed or whatever, but I don't think that's the majority.
There's some people that are born psychopaths, and
yeah.
So
I think it's like 99% environment that you grow up in. I think you can be born a psychopath but grow up in a good environment and still like not be super psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, wait. What way do you test whether or not someone's born a psychopath, though?
there might be tests for it, but I really don't know.
I don't know. That seems like something that doesn't actually that doesn't seem possible. I wonder if all.
It's like being. Sorry.
No, you can go.
It's like being born with a mental illness or something wrong with you physically, or stuff like that. But if I'm right, I think you can be born like with something wrong with you that makes you kind of like a psychopath, and
maybe I don't know. I feel like I also have been doing like very little, but it's something I'd like to research some more. Is people who are like genetic, like chemical imbalance depression. That's a theory that is heavily debated between people, whether or not there is such thing as a chemical imbalance for depression. And I believe there is. I know people who don't believe there is. So I know, like, I've heard from both sides of the spectrum. I don't know if either of you even know about this debate, but if you do, what is your opinions on it?
I'm not really sure about like exactly what you're talking about. And like what the arguments are.
Well, I personally know that it might be a chemical, I don't know, but I just know that naturally I think humans just feel depressed sometimes.
Yeah, I don't mean like the emotion of depressed.
Oh, okay.
We're like chronically depressed and can't don't understand sunsets and like things like that. Like people who like clinically do not know, have any visible cause for depression. And there's a lot of debate on that. There's actually what brought this topic to my attention is the internet feud between Prince E and Boy in a Band. You know, everyone knows who Boy in a Band is, right?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Do you know?
No, I'm not hip with the times, as the kids say.
So do a YouTube search for Boy in a Band. He's an incredibly smart person who also does some music stuff.
Yeah.
But I more enjoy his political and scientific things. Actually, on our AI podcast, a basis for a lot of it was his AI episode that he did on his YouTube channel. But there was an internet argument between him and Prince E. And Prince E is a man who I cannot stand. I feel like he abuses people's emotions and fear mongers and does a lot of very, very shady things and then says things that are just completely wrong and then contradicts himself, but also is super obsessed with himself and money. So I have problems with Prince EA, as you can see. But I really thought that video was interesting because the video, Prince E was like, well, you can just get past depression if you think about it. And then Boy in a Band was like, no, it's a chemical imbalance. But
what? How do you spell Boy in a Band?
It's one word, Boy in a Band, but all one word, so no spaces where there should be.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like Boy in a Band.
Boyo in a bando. But anyways, I'm running out of things to say because I don't know. The things aren't flowing in my head any longer.
How about the whole medication thing with like antidepressants and stuff?
Oh yeah, we were going to talk about that.
I honestly don't feel comfortable taking those.
I don't either.
What?
I don't either.
Yeah.
They literally altered the way your brain works.
Yeah, that just sounds creepy to me and just unnatural.
It is very unnatural. Also, if you ever go off of them, the withdrawal is just horrible. And I think there's a very big correlation between shooters on antidepressants. And I feel like I read that a lot of school shootings from the past year, the subject have had a history of antidepressants. Antidepressants are just not good for you. one of the, like, they mess around with the way your brain works, and one of the main causes is more depression because of that. Like, it can, first of all, if it work, like, it can work. If it works, like, if you ever go off of it, you're going to be messed up. And if it doesn't work, there's a very high chance it's going to make you worse. So,
Well, I have a little experience. My grandma has been on antidepressants for a very long time, and she was on them when my grandpa died. And she said because of taking the medication, she couldn't even like cry because of it. It was like so bad. And recently, probably a couple months ago, she's starting to get off of them, and I'm really hoping that it goes well and she doesn't get very big side effects or anything like that.
yeah.
She says she already feels much better and that she, like, actually has emotions compared to when she was on the medication.
Yeah. Yep. There's a topic.
So that's
Yeah. There's something of a topic with this because people who antidepressants have worked for swear by it as being a lifesaver and don't stop pill shaving, stuff like that. But I'm sorry. I'm not going to encourage people to take something that changes how their brain works. Changing how your brain works means changing how you work. Like, and they're so overprescribed, it's ridiculous. Like, a friend of mine who I was talking to was prescribed, like, she was taking a survey, and at her doctor, and in the survey she said she sometimes feels depressed. Mm-hmm. Everyone sometimes feels depressed. It's an emotion. Like, that's not unusual to feel depressed sometimes.
Yeah.
But her doctor immediately offered her antidepressants.
If you feel depressed sometimes, then it's probably not even severe at all, and you need no medication.
Like, yeah, I feel depressed sometimes, and sometimes yeah.
So does that mean you need medication?
No, like I have my own ways to make myself feel better. I'm not saying that I don't want to feel depressed. Actually, sometimes I feel like sort of not better about myself, but sometimes better after being depressed because I know I have emotions. Yay.
Yeah. It's nice feeling emotions because then you know, like, you're actually a normal human.
Yep. So, antidepressants are bad. I'm sorry. They might help you. I really don't think you should be taking them. Sorry. Like, I know that, like, it's not really my place, and I try, like, there are very few topics where I will flat out say, I don't think this should be a thing. This is one of them. I don't think they should be a thing. I don't care if they help you. They are not good for you, even if they make you feel better at the moment.
There's the keyword, at the moment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just a short period of time. It's not going to last you your entire life. Do you want to seriously take medicine your entire life?
And that can transfer into other things as well, like with addictions. Like, I know I'm sort of going through an addiction that I don't feel comfortable sharing at the moment, but, like, yeah, it's the same thing. It feels good at the moment, but in the overall, you just don't feel as good.
Yeah. It's just not good to do stuff like that.
Yep. Anyway.
We haven't really talked about this much, but what is everyone, like, reading at the moment? Like just
book-wise or just articles and stuff like that?
Like, I started this book that my my uncle's girlfriend. I think my uncle and my uncle's girlfriend got me. Like, I started it. It's pretty interesting. It's Washington's General. It's about Nathaniel Greene. So, pretty interested in reading that.
You started to say Nathaniel. I was like, oh, I see how it is.
But, like, yeah, reading is, like, just reading. Same as anything else. Like, it's fun sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. When it's
Yeah.
assigned, it's not as fun.
Yeah, I'm not a big reader at all, and I have like a lot of trouble reading books because I just don't find much fun or interest in it. But like I've done some research on subjects and like read articles and stuff, and that wasn't that bad because it was actually something I was interested in. And even I have read books that, what on earth is that?
This is a good book. It's
Oh, I've heard about that.
it's The Killing Joke, and it's a graphic novel. But don't let that turn you off to the fact that it's a genius. The entire thing plays around the concept that one bad day can entirely change who you are.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The concept of like right and wrong is relative. And I don't know, it's really, really interesting. It's a simple enough story, but it has a lot of deeper meaning to it if you actually like look into it. And it's called The Killing Joke, and I highly recommend it. I don't actually have any other books in here. I have a ton of books, but I just don't have them at my desk currently.
Yeah.
I have one book on my desk, and that's a cookbook.
Oh wait, I have a mountain bike book in here. A book on mountain bikes.
I have a science textbook and a script. But
Fancy. Oh. I have
nice.
like a sketchbook, a couple other like reference books, but there are like 4 cookbooks in my house, and I only have all 4 of them is because like 3 people in my house decided to go vegan, and so my mom just wanted to she got 3 out of the 4 of them. And so I've just been kind of going off of some of them. And really, being vegan isn't that hard. You don't need a cookbook. But some of them are fun, so.
So, I think we should probably close up. I know Dylan wanted to be on, but we're kind of running out of things to say.
Yeah.
It's almost 6 o'clock. Like,
Yeah, it's close
we've been
enough.
for almost 3 hours.
Yeah. So, real quick, I just wanted to say, like, thanks for watching, like, the show. It's been a while since we started the show, and I think I'm much more confident about the shows now, and I enjoy them much more now than I did. I mean, if you go back and watch the first, like, 20 episodes, I don't talk much, and now I'm talking too much. Like, my comfort level on the show has definitely increased quite a lot. And yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing it. I mean, this week we were missing 2 of our full panel.
Yeah.
And both of those people I know definitely would want to talk about the topics we talk about. So I think we're definitely not done on these topics. There are a couple of topics that I'm really very much so like to talk about, and they're very, very controversial topics. So I don't know if we'll get to talk about them, but I think we are going to hopefully be able to talk about it at least a little bit.
What are they, Martin?
Yeah.
So one of them is transgender, and like not really transgender rights, because I support transgender rights like fully, so that's not very controversial. But just like the concept of like transgenderism and how there are a lot of people that kind of seem like they're just jumping on the bandwagon a little bit, especially in our generation. And I'd like to talk a little bit about why our generation has so many people identifying as another gender or not a gender at all than there has been in any other generation.
Yeah, I know Dylan will probably definitely talk about that.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely a lot of things we're going to be talking about on this season, and I'm very much so looking forward to it. I think I would like to just quickly say none of the views we share on this show are meant to harm anyone. So we were talking a lot about gun control and how parents should raise their kids and antidepressants. And I think if you should support gun control, or if you take antidepressants, or if you're a parent who might not be the nicest with their children, we're not directly attacking you or anything like that. And I just want to make sure that's clear, and also that we are young. So don't try and attack us personally, because that would be kind of weird and super annoying. And also that on the same note, don't just take our opinions as opinions from children. And I know that's hard to say both, because they kind of contradict each other. I don't know. Basically, don't try your best not to get upset if we say things you disagree with. Because I know for a fact we say things that there are going to be people that disagree with.
Even on the show.
Yeah. I know a lot of the views we've expressed today are very, very controversial, and decidedly a lot of people do not agree with what at least what I and Nathaniel and Willow. So I'm oh wait, there's only 3 of us here, have said on the show today. I know for a fact a lot of people don't agree with that. So just try to remember that it's opinions, and not to take it too
serious.
Personally. Yeah. I mean, take it seriously. It's a big issue, but don't take it personally. Anyways, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And anyone else have anything to say for their closing thoughts?
No.
Just don't rob a store.
Don't rob a liquor store.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lainey Liberty.
And this is Miro Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.